every generation, we continue to see certain things play out. For example, when we were growing up, the previous generation before us accused us of being untrained, that so many of us lack trainings, or that so many of us were born bad. I was discussing with someone the other time, and the person said that some people are actually born bad, that nothing the parents do can change them, so they were naturally born bad people. And then we have these accusations of this generation accusing the other generation of being the most corrupt generation. For example, presently people think that the Gen Z folks lack manners, the Gen Z folks are very disrespectful, the Gen Z folks do not want to work, they are too lazy and all that. I think that when we put certain things into perspective, we will begin to understand generational differences better. The past generation and the previous generation have so many differences in terms of behaviors and in terms of communication. So sometimes the way Gen Z folks communicate might sound a bit disrespectful to the millennials, and it might sound even much more disrespectful to the baby boomers and the other folks. Why are these differences there? The reason why I'm discussing this is so that we also factor it in when it comes to parenting. Because when people are parenting, they often make the mistake of trying to raise children the same way they were raised. You gave birth to a child in 2023 and you want to raise the child the same way you were raised in 1991. It doesn't work like that. The two worlds are very different. What was obtainable in 1991 may not be obtainable in 2023, and what is obtainable in 2023 might or can never be obtainable in 1991. So you have to understand that the world you are in is different. The world where your new baby or where your children is born into is different. The way they view the world and the way you viewed the world in your own time is not the same thing. That is why sometimes we say, wow, that children of these days are smart. No, it's not that children of these days were actually smarter than the children of those days. It's simply that the children of these days were born into a different world. For example, people like my parents, they knew the world in the days when there was no advanced technology. There was a time there was no computer. There was a time there was nothing like internet. In fact, I was alive when mobile network came into Nigeria. So I had a little idea of what Nigeria looked like, or what life looked like without the internet or without the mobile phone. So they themselves had the idea of what the world looked like without the internet at all. So when they begin to tell you the experiences they had while in school, while there might be similarities, because all of us are humans, while there might be similarities when it comes to peer pressure, when it comes to adolescence and all that, but the expressions are not the same. So you see that there is a shift in culture, there is a shift in values and shift in the way things are being done. Some of these Gen Z folks, they were born into this technology. They don't know what the world was like without these technologies. A woman that was born in the days when polygamy was still very, very profound will have nothing against polygamy. She was born into that world, in the world where women didn't choose their husbands, in the world where some husbands didn't even choose their wives. They were chosen even before they were born. Some people had no say in their own marriages, right? So that kind of world, you will realize that the way those people were expressing marriages were different. But the truth is that if you can question your grandmother, I'm talking about particularly grandmothers, if your grandmother is still alive, go and ask her this question. It is very possible that her last marriage was not her first marriage or even her second marriage. In fact, in the days of our grandparents, a lot of them left marriages with reckless abandon. But the reason it was not dominating the airwaves was simply because we were not even conversant with the airwaves. So we knew nothing about the airwaves, right? So there was nothing like social media today where any single thing hits the news. They are not necessarily the most irresponsible people. There are responsible people in Gen Z folks, so many of them, millions and billions of them, right? But the truth is that anything that anybody does, whether responsible or irresponsible, it has the tendency of hitting the airwaves. Now, the truth is that for every generation, the way they express their values are different. The way they express their values may not be the way our own generation expresses our values. When we understand these differences and why these differences are there, we can actually respect ourselves. So there are things the Gen Z folks will do, and we are not going to get worked up with it. Why? Because this is who they are. This is the world they were born into. Their nurturing is different. They were nurtured in the world of TikTok. They were nurtured in the world where technology has gotten so much stronghold. And when it comes to the issue of that they don't want to work, the reason you feel they don't want to work is because they are not disposed to your idea of work. Your idea of work and their own idea of work is not the same thing. I was doing a program on digital marketing with Aleph Incorporated. So one of the studies we made was that we studied how the different generations saw what work is. Remember, there was a generation that saw work as going to farm, and all those stuff. Then there was industrialization, and then we also had a generation that saw work as, that generation valued civil service more. They were more ready to go for paid employment. And I think that was the world where many of us came into, and because our parents saw that what was giving money then was white collar job. If you are a banker, you are living big. If you work in the oil company, you are living big. If you work in big industries, then you are living big. So because that was the world they saw, and because that was the kind of thing they saw as work, lucrative job, so many of them sent their children to school, not necessarily for the children to be educated, but because they want these children to get these white collar jobs. And eventually, before our own very eyes, the white collar job stuff crashed. So a lot of us came out of school, but we couldn't find jobs. So many of us were able to get certificates, but we had no tangible skills that can actually work for us outside the former 8 to 5 job stuff setting, right? And now these Gen Z folks don't know anything about that place we are coming from. What they know now is that you can actually go on TikTok, do videos, and you make your money. So this particular generation are in a world where they can make the money you pay them in a month, they can make it on TikTok in a day. Or the money you pay them in a month, they can make it on YouTube. They can make times 10 of that on YouTube in a month. So because of this, you discover that they may no longer be disposed to your own kind of work because they see it as being enslaved. You can imagine someone who makes 100,000, 200, 300, 400, 500, 1 million on YouTube, for example, in a month, and you want the person to start working for you for salary of 100,000 or salary of 50,000. It's not going to be possible because this person is doing something he or she enjoys doing, but still at the end of the day, the person makes considerable amount of money. So the reason I'm taking time to explain all of these things is for you to see the difference between your own world and the world of these Gen Z folks, and the reason why they see differently. So they see differently because while we are in the same world, we were born at different times. So certain things, certain conditions, certain nurturings of the past have shaped the way we see the world. So even as a parent, when you begin to parent your child, you need to understand that they are not coming from where you are coming from. So you need to know what is obtainable in the world of today, so that you can, when you are addressing issues in their lives, you are addressing what is relevant in their lives. When you are addressing issues, you are addressing something they can relate with at this moment, at this time, at this stage of their lives.